You're live on the news review segment on the AM show. Ben and I are here to steer the conversations. Let me usher in our guest this morning. We'll be speaking to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's Head Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. And we'll also be speaking with Dr. Jibril Mohammed, Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. They both join us via Zoom. Doctors, good morning. Do I have Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante first?
Good morning, sweetie. You have me online. And good morning to Ben. And then my friend Jibril.
Fantastic.
Of course, good morning to our viewers and listeners.
Great.
Doc, good morning. Jabir, how are you today?
I'm fine. Good morning to you and good morning to all your listeners.
Great. Like we usually do, we'll give you some time to share your thoughts with us on something that has come up that is of interest to you. At this time, we'll start with you, Dr. Jabir Mohammed.
Thank you, Bernard. This morning, I'll go back again to the Bank of Ghana. We have just had a new governor of the Bank of Ghana in the person of Dr. Siama. And I believe that the Bank of Ghana has a lot to do because you recall that the Bank of Ghana had about 60 billion loss 2 years ago and also about 10 billion loss last year, which means that there is a Herculean task for the Bank of Ghana to be able to cover up. But I also believe that right now that the first deputy governor has also resigned, it means that the president has the opportunity to appoint a new person into the role, which means that the Bank of Ghana is getting set for a good work to be done. Also, I want to take us back to inflation. Inflation has dropped by at least 0.8%. But however, food prices are still high, which means that it is about 10% higher than 6 months ago. What that means is that you and I, our life is worse off by 10% when it comes to purchasing food. So this is something that the Bank of Ghana will have to work very hard to be able to put into track.
I see interesting thoughts you've shared there. Of course, voluntarily, those two gentlemen have put forward their leave requests ahead of retirement. Dr. Asah-Asante, what are your thoughts for us this morning?
I will look at what we have listened to and watched with disquiet. That is the disturbances in Parliament relative to the vetting. I'm sure all of us are alive to this. We saw that, and that is not the best. It brings to sharp focus certain things that we need if we want to go on very well as a state, and particularly so when we're dealing with an institution that is responsible for lawmaking. We need a structure that will help in the interview of nominees, and that structure should have a bio that will spell out a little background of you, and then which include your experience and any other thing worth knowing. But what is more important in that structure is that we need duration that the interview will last. Because if you look at the issue more detail, you realize that minority were saying they were tired and all that. That means that that consideration must be brought to bear if you want to have a structure that will stand the test of time. And let me also inform members of Parliament that they are honorable and they must carry themselves as such, that the game in Parliament is nothing but ideas supported by consensus. Fisticuffs, blows do not have any place in a democracy. Every democracy worth its salt is driven by ideas and consensus. And out of this, decisions are reached. Any other thing is nothing but an aberration, a misnomer, which we don't want. We want them to know that they have come to the end regarding disturbances in Parliament. If there is something that they do not share and believe in, strategies are bound and they can adopt any of them, including walkouts. Those fisticuffs are not part of any democratic enterprise.
Well, thank you very much for your thoughts, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. We'll get into the papers now.
Yes, let me start with the news center. Bank of Ghana First Deputy Governor proceeds on leave, like you just mentioned, Dr. Jibril, and that is ahead of his term. But there's a story related to that. It says minority leader challenges new Bank of Ghana governor's assumption of office, and I'll get to it in a bit. And then there's Mahama betrays teacher trainees. Vote for allowance campaign tends to allowance cancellation. There's a statement actually on that, and they say they're not actually cancelling it right away. They want to keep it for a while until they've structured the student loan, enhanced student loan system. Backbin lifts suspension on 4 MPs. Yesterday, we all witnessed that, and court overturns arrest warrant against Karen Baba Sam. So 2 main stories here. Mahama betrays teacher trainees allowance. In a shocking turn of events, the newly elected John Dramani Mahama government has announced its intention to cancel teacher trainee allowances, a move that has left thousands of students in colleges of education feeling deceived and betrayed. But it says that prior to the NDC 2024 election, the NDC made 6 pledges under its education manifesto. And one of these promises was provide trainee allowances, student loans, and other diverse funding options for teacher and training allowances. And I think that's the same thing that the ministry is trying to explain. They are not cancelling it outrightly. They're trying to enhance the student loan system so that students can depend on themselves for feeding and other things. And then the story about the minority challenging the new Bank of Ghana governor's assumption of office. Photo of minority leader is there, but let me get to the story now. The minority in Parliament has raised concerns over Dr. Johnson Isiame's assumption of official duties as governor of the Bank of Ghana, citing constitutional concerns. The President John Dramani Mahama nominated him on 31st January, pending approval by the Council of State. And that's the argument that they're making, that he should wait for his appointment or nomination be approved by the Council of State before he assumes office. These 2 main stories, gentlemen. Let me start with you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante.
Yeah, I'll start with the teachers trainee allowance and matters arising. Allowance is good. They enhance work and then improve the quality of work people do. But you always want to find out whether they are sustainable. How long can the paying authority continue to pay? So I believe that the way forward, so this is what the ministry is announcing, that they want to look at it and then take a decision on that. I will urge them to make it a stakeholder meeting so that we move towards what? Loan scheme. Allowance be converted to loan. It's not a bad idea. All of us took Senate loan, and when we finish school, we paid back. That's the spirit, so that others will also have the opportunity to also access the same funding. So I believe that the way forward and the long-term program towards this is what? The student loan scheme. Once they get that, it's going to serve the same purpose, but at the end of the day, you give back, as opposed to allowance that when it's given to you, you don't give back. So
right.
If we want to ensure prudence for money, one of the surest way is this. With the governors and his deputy and the rest, the deputy governor's story, I must say that it's a bit too technical for me.
Okay.
I don't know what it entails, because if you hear the argument, they said that you need Council of State to approve and all that. As far as I'm concerned, the Council of State's tenure has not expired. I don't know. If they are still in office, they can still be consulted and then approve this. Okay. But other than that, I think I'll rest my case and see as things unfold, and we'll look at all the nuances.
Right. Doug, any quick comments on the lifting of that suspension on the 4 MPs? Briefly, and then I'll go to
Yes. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
I believe that the Speaker has done the right thing by putting his foot down. For me, it doesn't come to me as a surprise, because as somebody who was once a reporter in Parliament, we all work under the Speaker, and we know who he was and today who he is. I have no doubt in my mind that he has not changed a bit. He's very firm and strong. What I read from his action was that he has just given them first yellow card. The next yellow card will be converted to red, and that be a different story. I believe that leadership in Parliament, both ways, will look at the issue and address it head on, and then inculcate in their people that there is no place in democracy where blows and destruction of property are allowed. If they go on that route, the next time they will have a red card. And that means that they will have severe sanctions, and then people like us will call for severe sanctions for them, because what they have done twice in terms of these disturbances. The first one was 2020 after the I think leading to the swearing in of the election of the speaker back when first term, and then this one. You are just, telling us that you are not organized. But I know Parliament as an institution, well organized and well respected. All these things bring a dent on the image of Parliament, and they should be worried about this.
Okay.
Any other action that will bring shame to Parliament, they must be ready to face sanction, and any property destroyed, they pay for it, so that it will serve as deterrent to other people. But they should go home and turn new leaf, as the Speaker has given them this leeway.
Right. Thank you so much. And Dr. Mohammed, I'm curious to know what the technicalities are in terms of the assumption of office for the new nominated governor for the Bank of Ghana. Does this argument hold that he should wait for the Council of State to approve his nomination?
Well, I believe that there is work to be done. And that is how come that he quickly assumed office. Right now, the governor is gone. The second deputy governor is gone. Is there any acting person on his behalf if he's not assuming office?
I think Dr. Addison leaves on March 31st or so. He hasn't left yet, but he's notified the president of his intention to take a leave. So
yes,
he's still in office.
Yes, he took the leave on the 3rd. Exactly on the 3rd. So as he takes a leave, there is nobody to act in that capacity. So if the new governor has been appointed, I don't see anything wrong with he going to take over the position until the Council of State approves him. After all, there are other positions that have already assumed office, waiting for the Council of State to be constituted and what do you call it, and approve them. So he's still in the acting position. So until the governor, the Council of State is in place, so that he will properly be approved for him to take over the place. So I don't think anything is really wrong with that as a person. And on the issue of the teacher trainee allowance, it's been said and argued in relentlessly that teacher trainee allowance in the past, there has been a lot of political debate on it. But I believe that there is supposed to be a position of equity, a position of access, and a position of resources. So if the government sees that it doesn't have the needed resources to continue the exercise, so I believe that we can put a stop to it. But I also believe that now we have about 4 years. Usually it used to be just 2 years. Now they have about 4 years to be in school. And if the numbers increase and they are now 4 years, it's going to be extremely difficult for the government to be able to cater for all of that. So I fervently believe that we have to really look at that particular exercise. And also, if you remove the trainee allowance, you are going to create a room for more access. So we can have more people entering into the training college. So you are not able to restrict access if you remove the trainee allowance. So I just believe that we have to do something really concrete so that it can benefit the entire citizenry. And lastly, we have an educational conference coming up. Some of these things can be put in place and better discussion can be done on that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, lastly, on the parliamentary issue, the Speaker has taken his position and he suspended them. Now he's asking them to come back. What that means is that there is still a committee in place that is supposed to come out with an investigation. We are still not losing sight of that committee's report. So the committee can still come out with their investigation and the appropriate sanctions can be applied to them. Nobody is above the law, and I believe that the chaos or the misbehavior should not be tolerated anymore.
Thank you so much. And that will do it for the News Center. Ben, should we do your paper?
Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. Development Bank Ghana welcomes Dr. Randolph Nso Ambala as CEO. There's Education Ministry denies story, but Graphic stands by report, and that's, of course, being reported by the Daily Graphic. Prostate, liver cancers among leading causes of death in Ghana. So prostate and liver cancers. 155 contest Council of State slots today. Interesting as we bring them into the fray in respect of the Bank of Ghana situation. Speaker reverses suspension of 4 MPs. When you go to the back page, WAPCO shuts down gas transmission today, and Kolebu suspends mortuary services for refurbishment. So in case you didn't know, let me start from the back page. The Kolebu Teaching Hospital has temporarily suspended accepting fresh dead bodies and brought-in dead, that is BID cases, to allow for a 6-week refurbishment of its mortuary facilities. The hospital urged bereaved families whose deceased relatives had been in the mortuary for 3 to 6 weeks to make immediate arrangements for burial or transfer them to alternative facilities. The refurbishment of the 600-capacity cold room is aimed at enhancing service delivery at the facility, which means that if any hospital facility refers you there within this period, you should take note that you probably have to seek other options. But the facilities, I'm sure, will be aware. WAPCO shuts down gas transmission today, and the West African Gas Pipeline Company, the operator of the West African Gas Pipeline, will shut down the pipeline for routine maintenance from today. This will enable the company to launch its pipeline inspection gauge to inspect and clean the 569-kilometer stretch of pipeline as required by regulation. In terms of alternative fuel, the last time the company was to have shut down was January the 20th this year, during which the state did not have enough fuel reserves for power generation. However, Daily Graphic checks revealed that the government had secured enough alternative fuel supply to fill in any shortfall. And the General Manager Operations and Maintenance of WAPCO, Awal Ibrahim, said the company remained committed to maintaining the proactive stakeholder engagement and more. Let me wrap for now with this story, and then I'll come to you, gentlemen. A total of 155 personalities from the 16 regions in the country have filed their nominations to contest slots in the Council of State election on Tuesday, February the 11th. The list compiled by the Daily Graphic indicates that by the close of nominations last Friday, 145 males and 10 females, that's quite a disparity, had submitted their nomination forms to contest the single slot reserved for each of the 16 regions. The election of Council of State members is not open to public voting, but through an electoral college made up of 2 representatives nominated by each district assembly. And just to add on, the Greater Accra Regional Director of the EC, Gladys Pinkra, told the Daily Graphic that 13 persons filed to contest the region's single slot of the Council of State. So 13 candidates for a single slot in the Greater Accra region. Your thoughts on these matters? Let me start with you, Dr. Asante.
Ben, I'll start with the Council of State. I have always said, and I'll repeat it here, that this is a body made up of people who have seen it all. In other words, experienced people with all the skills that we need if we want to look at their qualities. So I have always said that if this body serves as an advisory body to government, and they have all the qualities that we want, why do we still keep them as a Council of State instead of pushing them into a second chamber and then making sure that we expand their frontiers, and then they also give us the best of what advice? Because if you look at the quality of people in there, former IGP, former CDS, former Chief Justice and all, for me, this is like the House of Lords in the UK. So why can't we turn them around and then have a second chamber? And that will really help. That is my view about it. Those who are interested in contesting, we wish them the best. The best will be selected, and then they will come and support us. But going forward, I think that that conversation should occupy our minds, and one day we should bring it to the fore for discussion. WAPCO shut down and the maintenance program. a good thing. I'll urge the new government to find ways of making money so that the repairs will not be postponed from time to time. No, we have to do it on schedule to avoid all the difficulties associated with such exercises. So I will urge the new government to look for resources so that at all material time, when there is a need for repairs, they repair, whilst we also have power. I am happy to hear from the minister this morning that, yes, this repairs will go on, but so the light will be on. That is what we want. And they should find a way out to maintain this at all times. The issue about prostate and liver cancer affecting lives.
I will get into that story, and maybe when I do with the details, then we can get in there. But just a quick follow-up. You do realize, remember, that this planned maintenance should have happened. I believe this is what should have happened in October, which was pushed to January.
Yes.
And of course, that creates issues. But like you said, the issues must be dealt with. Simple.
Yes. Prostate and liver cancer. It's a worrying development in the sense that this country, we are now seeing a lot of cancer cases, and it tells us that there's something wrong that we need to fix. And every time our health experts continue to advise us as to what to do to avoid some of these things, we as a society must double our effort to make sure that we undertake a lot of screening and then make sure that we get our health check done at all times so as to save ourselves as a society. It is an important exercise that it must occupy our attention. The last story is about the Kolibu and the mortuary and the repairs that is going on. It's good. Maintenance culture is something that is in deficit in this country. So if we have found time to undertake such exercise, kudos, but it must be sustained so that it will not be a night, just a one-off thing. It should come on at all times.
Dr. Jabir, your quick thoughts on this. I'll get to the prostate issue. I've not read the facts and figures, but you go ahead with your thoughts and I'll get back to that.
Yeah, on the issue of the WAPO closing of the gas pipeline for maintenance, I believe that it's a step in the right direction. And as the minister has assured that the lights are going to be on, we must at all times ensure that the light is on. That is what Ghanaians are looking for. So if that means that we have to look onto the independent power producers to be able to provide us with the needed power gap in terms of the closure of the gas pipeline, we have to do so that our lights are on. For Kwalebu, in terms of the maintenance, that is very good, as said by Dr. Shashanti. But I believe that we have to provide alternatives. What is the alternative for people who want to send their bodies to the place? Is there any other place that we can relocate them to in place of the maintenance? And also, I don't think they need just one mortuary. They need more than one, so that anytime we have some of these problems, they can have space for people who pass on to be able to store for some time. Lastly, on the prostate cancer and kidney disease, I believe that the water we drink or the pollution of our water bodies will be one of the key concerns to some of these problems. But with the prostate cancer, that one there is its main problem. And I believe that routine checkups can help to maintain this kind of position for us. So I think that's what I have.
All right. Let me just quickly get to that one before I do the DBG story. So prostate liver cancer is among leading causes of death in Ghana. The Ghana Health Service has said that prostate and liver cancers are among the leading causes of death in the country. In 2022, a total of 2,395 cases of prostate cancer were recorded in the country, with 1,233 deaths. Look at that. 2,395 cases, 1,233 deaths. That's it's more than half the figure, representing 52% mortality, while liver cancer affected a total of 2,656 men in 2022, with 2,390 deaths, representing 90% mortality. That's why I wanted to read the story so we get a full picture. Now, also, an estimated number of all new cancer cases recorded in 2022 was 27,385, with 17,944 deaths, while about 63,764 persons survived the disease in the country. The Ghana Health Service has therefore stressed the need for people to get tested for the conditions at least once a year so that cases would be picked up early for treatment. And this was while marking World Cancer Day on the theme United in Unique. So when was the last time you checked your prostate? And sometimes you even have to go further, not just the PSA. I usually check around my birthday so that I stay on. When was the last time you checked? And nowadays there's a lot of, because of the things we consume and the lack of exercise, fatty liver disease and all of that. If you don't get checked, by the time you find out, it may be too late. There's also page 13, I believe. Let me just, was it 13 or 11? The DBG story, the Development Bank of Ghana. Is it? Let me just get to it very quickly. Yes, there it is. So, Development Bank Ghana has announced the appointment of a development finance professional, Dr. Randolph Nso Ambala, as the new chief executive of the bank, effective January 21 this year. I believe it's the same bank that some women have said John Mahama should turn into a women's bank or a women's development bank. I don't know what especially Dr. Jabir Mohammed would think about that. But let me start with you, Doc, now that you have the facts and the figures. Just quick thoughts, and we'll get into other papers.
Yes, I think about the cancer story. We need as a society declare war on cancer and then marshal all the resources to fight it head on because it's taking a lot of lives. If you look at the figures, they are so, mind-blowing. We need to fix this now. We should bring all our arsenals on it and fight it head on. The education on cancer, the advocacy must continue unabated.
All right. Dr. Mohammed?
Yeah, well, if you look at the current government manifesto, they have said that they are going to make provision for issues of kidney disease, etc. So it's going to be a main stable. I believe that it is time for them to walk the talk, just rather than just giving a manifesto promises. We have to put things in place to be able to fix this particular position. Health is very important. All of us can be affected. Just look at the scary numbers. Over 90-something% died. Over 50-something% also died, which means that this is really a very, very big issue. And it's a national disaster that we have to be able to resolve. So Ministry of Health, Public Health have to intensify their education. And that can help to calm down some of these situations. I believe that if the government also if the government is able to fulfill that campaign promise, it's going a long way to support the people of Ghana, because it's very expensive to treat some of these diseases. So if there are no resources in place to be able to treat it, then it's going to be difficult for the people. They'll continue to die because they don't have the money to be able to do dialysis and all sort of things.
Right.
That has to do with that. Now, regarding the Development Bank of Ghana, well, the present promise of a Women Development Bank, which is different from the Bank of Ghana, these two, Development Bank of Ghana, these two banks have different missions to accomplish. So I don't think that the development is an easy way to move, to say that someone has set up a bank and you come to use your campaign promise to change the name to Women Development Bank. It doesn't make sense. Of course, they can make a unit of it as component of it, but they said that they wanted to set up a Women Development Bank. So let's look up to them, let them fulfill their promise, and we'll see what can happen for the good people of Ghana, especially our women, because access to financing is very critical to ensure that they have a stable business so that they can run to feed their families and make their life better.
Well, let's get into other papers.
Gentlemen, I cannot tell you how deep this conversation on cancer is sitting in my spirit this morning.
52% mortality rate for prostate cancer, 90% for liver-related cancers. That is staggering.
Yeah, I'm saying that because I lost my dad to cancer. So there was a period in my life where I would read everything I could find on cancer.
I mean.
Yeah, so this initiative, getting people tested once a year, if it really sees the light of day, I think we can save more lives than we lose to cancer. Let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Tripartite committee begins 2025 salary negotiations. Government urges partners to work expeditiously. Government reviews gold for oil policy to promote transparency, according to the energy minister. Of course, the story about Speaker lifting suspension on foreign peace here. Presbyterian Church eulogizes J.B. Dankwa. I want to start from the second to last page because it carries an interesting story. Ex-Labour minister, second suspect granted bail. Third suspect remanded in police custody. And the owner and bankroller of Ghana Premier League side in Swatreman FC, Ignatius Bafwewa, and the second suspect, Joseph Chireme, have been granted bail in connection with the violent disturbances that occurred during a league match between Asante Kotoko and Nswatreman on Sunday at Nswatre in the Bono region. So just an update on that story. Two of those suspects, that is the ex-Labour minister and the second suspect, have been granted bail. The third person is still in police custody. That story, let me just add two more. On the tripartite committee beginning the salary negotiations, government urging partners to work expeditiously. It says the National Tripartite Committee began negotiations to determine the minimum wage and base pay for the 2025 fiscal year. Let me just jump to this point where it says the statement called on the social partners, that is government, employers, organized labor, to work expeditiously to complete the negotiation in time to inform the 2025 budget. Mind you, the minimum wage, which was increased from 14 Ghana cedis, 88 pesos in 2023, was upgraded to 18 Ghana cedis, 15 pesos in 2025, which in my view, I still think is so small. But let's see what the committee comes up with. One last story. Government reviews gold for oil policy to promote transparency. The government, in reviewing the gold for oil policy, is reviewing the gold for oil policy, I think, to help serve the needs of players in the downstream petroleum sector and promote transparency to the implementation of the program. That is the Minister for Energy, John Abdullahi Dinapo, has said. And he indicated that the Ministry of Finance had started the process to review the gold aspect of the gold for oil policy through the establishment of the Ghana Gold Board. Gentlemen, these stories for your reflections. I'll start with you, Dr. Mohammed.
I'll start with the last story, the gold for oil. This is something that the government put in place so that we can stabilize our currency. And that is the most important aspect of it. But strangely enough, if you look at Ghana, we are an oil-producing country. Why is it that we are not able to refine our oil so that we can use that to be able to solve our needs? Because the consumption of oil is something that you cannot do without. Every household consumes oil. If you don't use a vehicle, definitely you pick a vehicle to your workplace. So we have to work on TOR so that we can put TOR in place to be able to deal with some of these situations. We cannot always continue to gamble. Gold for oil is a derivative instrument that we wanted to employ so that we can exchange oil for gold. That is basically that. But to the extent that it's not properly working, it means that we have to relook at it and ensure that we are able to refine our own oil in the country, what we can consume in the country. And that can even help to stabilize our currency because we don't need to actually use foreign exchange again to buy oil. If we can pick component of the oil that we produce in Ghana to be able to refine for our own internal use. Now, to the tripartite committee, 18 Ghana cedi is relatively small. If you look at even food inflation, that grew up by 10% in the last 6 months, which means that if it goes up by 10%, you have lost already 10% of your daily wage for food only. So what are you going to save for your future? So I believe that the tripartite committee should review and get us a better wage. But I also believe that in as much as we are asking for higher wage, we should also step up our productivity. If you increase your productivity, it's going to lead to a growth in the economy. And if the economy expands, definitely your income is going to expand. So I believe that we need to put better mechanisms in place to up our game. What are employers looking for? Employers should be able to set up the models of operandi or the goal that they want them to achieve, so that at the end of the day, when they achieve that, it's going a long way to help to increase our GDP. And largely, employment will even increase if our GDP goes up. Theoretically, some of these things have been proven. So I believe that we get to do more about that.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Gomez Asante.
Yeah, every time we look at salary negotiations and then figures come out as basic pay, are they realistic? Given the circumstances we find ourselves. Our people must be straightforward on these things so that you pay realistic wage. And that also calls for what? Equal work. And that recipient of such wages must also deliver. And then that means you increase output, and then the person paying will not be also a loser. You extend the conversation, it gives you an idea, and that there is the need to work at what productivity at all times. We are interested in the wages, but are we working to improve the quality of service that we deliver? Is it the case that it's government job, so you can handle it anyhow? We need to change our attitude and also make sure that what we receive is what we give in terms of what our labor. It is critical. And I want the committee also to do their work in such a way that those who are managing the economy of this country will work towards dealing with industrial actions, industrial strike and all that. It's becoming one too many. You saw before the last election, almost every government worker was up in arms against the government relative to the topic we are looking at. That must cease, because for me as a student of politics, it is one of the public opinion tools that we use to gauge whether there's stability in the government and whether the government is doing anything meaningful. It escaped the attention of the political watchers within the MPP, and they had their fingers bent. This time around, the NDC government should be able to have a political officer who will be able to look at these things, advise government, and they take important decisions. Because these public opinion tools, they come to light when you have what? Instability. Gold for oil.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not an expert in that area, but I believe that with my little mind, political parties must develop individuals who have capacity to do businesses and to be able to create those individuals who will support us when we're in difficulty. Look at the example of Nigeria, where you have, that billionaire there trying to build a refinery for them. Dangote. Here we have political parties deliberately destroying the businesses of Ghanaians, that we are not able to build those business moguls who will be able to do this thing as private entities. That is a way to go. Because let us remember that for governance, you need to be able to develop your own, than with a cap in hand, globe-trotting, looking for resources to do this. So political parties must turn their attention to building people here so that one day they will take up this challenge and it will be healthy for all.
Doc, do I get some quick comments on the release of ex-Minister for Labour and second suspect granted bail on that violence clash we saw in Swatreman?
I've not been following the story, but once it's in court, you know my position.
Yeah.
It's an appropriate forum. I'll wait when the court delivers. We'll come and then also digest the issues.
Right, thank you. Just the headlines for the custodian newspaper. Mahama to cancel teacher trainee allowances again. We just discussed that. Tame your wild dogs. Apenyo Marking to Ayariga. A Blackwell's lavish lifestyle under scrutiny. Backbone lifts suspension of 4 MPs. And these are just the stories on the custodian newspaper. Ben?
Well, Economy Times, Ghana earns record high $5 billion in trade surplus in 2024. Islamic finance, experts' proposal to the Mahama administration to bridge funding gaps, and Dr. John Esiama nominated as new Bank of Ghana governor. I'll just do these two quick ones and then go on to another paper. Now, a combination of surging gold prices on one side and the reduced availability of foreign exchange due to the closure of Ghana's access to international capital markets, coupled with the inordinate cost of international trading currencies, have supported an improvement in the country's merchandise trade performance to a long-term surplus position in 2024. And that's Economy Times newspaper. Last year, Ghana recorded a merchandise trade surplus of $4,980 million, which was 46% higher than the surplus of $2,694.5 million and in 2023. We've also heard in recent times how the gold for oil policy, I don't know whether it's gold for oil, no, the Bank of Ghana, the central bank, shoring up on its gold reserves has impacted the central bank. And again, that's the Economy Times newspaper, Economy Times newspaper. Now, the discussions around the introduction of Islamic financing models to augment Ghana's access to needed funding to address pressing development needs of the country has lingered over decades, in spite of the financial laws of the country permitting the country to explore the vast market of Islamic finance products, which have been touted as the most sustainable and prudent sources of developmental funding. The regulatory framework is not attended to, thereby curtailing all efforts by the Ghanaians to exploit the market. So basically, it's a call. Islamic financing is known in many parts. I've seen a few banks or financial entities that are predominantly geared towards Islamic financing. There was this bank, it was on the Nima Highway stretch. I've just forgotten the name. I think later it's changed name. It was also one of those entities, but more regulation in that regard is what is being called for by experts. The New Finder newspaper, let me just add, Tallow Petroleum Commission boosts indigenous businesses for sustainable growth. COPEC urges transport unions to be considerate in adjusting fair prices amid fuel increment. And those are the key stories in there. I will add the Ghanaian publisher and pause there. Dapea Mekpo replies Akwesi Akwa's silly joke, and it's about his his gonads. Let me use the technical term. His gonads, his male reproductive organs, being squeezed in Parliament. And he says that was a silly joke, that no such thing happened. Speaker lifts MP's suspension in defense of the NLA boss. But I wanted to highlight this and commend the NCCE on it. If you look at the back page of the New Publisher newspaper, you'll see something there. It's an advert by the NCCE, and it says the fight against galamsey is still a challenge. What can be done to end the menace? And it's actually the NCCE putting up that advert. And I thought it was worthy of mentioning at least some work being done in that regard. Any quick reactions? I'll start with you, Dr. Mohammed.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the issue of the currency and also...
And unfortunately, for the sake of time, it has to be very brief because we go off in about 2 minutes.
So, you know that Ghana went on deficit financing for quite some time now. Right. And also, if you look at it critically, you realize that our current account went on negative 3 years ago. And now, if you are recording a surplus, it means that you are going to up our game and things are going to be closing very soon. I think that is a very good step, a step in the right direction. Islamic financing has been touted to be an interest-free financing instrument. I believe that it's an alternative development financing model that the government can adopt. So if we are triggering in a very higher debt environment, the best option to go for is to go for interest-free financial assets. So we need to put in the regulations to be able to bring in Islamic banking in Ghana. And strangely, the NDC have had this in their manifesto. So I believe that they should just walk the talk. If you have it in your manifesto, just implement it, and that will be better for us. On the issue of NCC giving education on some of these things, I believe that what happened in Parliament is something that we need to put measures in place to be able to stop. So the President, the Speaker of Parliament setting up the committee is going to help in the right direction to be able to put some of these things into a better position. Lastly, I think there was, okay.
Is there any other one you wanted to refer to? Is it the Daper Mekpo story in Parliament, or is it the petroleum issue, adjusting fares?
The Petroleum Commission statement.
Right.
On increment of fares.
Right.
I believe that yes, there is always a committee in place to be able to either to increase the fare or to reduce the fare. So the drivers will always have to come into an agreement with transport. Ministry of Transport, so that they can fix an appropriate fare for everybody. There shouldn't be a lose out. There should be a win-win situation. What that means is that the transport operators should not lose as a result of increments in petroleum prices, and also patronage of people who use transport, public transport should also not lose out. So I believe that they can come together to ensure that there is a better win-win situation for all of them.
Thank you. We have a little more time so we can articulate on matters. Dr. Asan Asante, your thoughts on these stories?
I will look at NCC and the Galamsey story. You know, Galamsey story, I love it because we want to save the ecology and save our lives. We took this matter to the highest level during the campaign, and we are now in governance. I have already started talking, and you recall that I did criticize Mr. Muhammad that I was disappointed in his inaugural speech where Galamsey did not feature. We want the fight to be sustained, and then we want a decisive action from government. So we want to be clear. I listened to the minister who is Mr. Bua, and he was talking about a few things we want to do. We want a decisive action because the problem as we have is a big one, and we need to confront it head on. If we are able to do this, you and I know that we can rake in a lot of money in terms of what the people that we engage. Let us encourage, proper mining that regulates, that there is regulation, that there is also proper procedures of what handling these things, so that we get the youth. If we're able to do this, there are a lot of people we can engage or employ in this sector. I have chanced upon a certain data which says that about the first quarter of last year, Ghana was able to rake in about $2.2 billion relative towards small-scale mining. If this is the case, why are we in IMF looking for $3 billion? We need to up the game here, stop it, encourage professional and decent ones, and then we get more people to be employed, because I'm told that through that quarter, we're able to employ 1 million people. If we extend this and do it professionally, we are going to get a lot of our people employed there, and we sanitize the environment. And then we save our cash crop, such as cocoa, which is facing a threat related to what these activities. And always the conversation has been on, Galamsey, but the cocoa and other crops that we depend on for our survival and for export, we have thrown that away and allow Meta House to find expression in these crops. It's not the best. I will also look at the Islamic financing. It's a good thing, and that the earlier, the better. Let's get all the stakeholders in place and decide. I always keep emphasizing stakeholders, because this is a country that is modeled along what the good governance principle, which says that whatever decision you want to take, and if you want to stand the test of time, you need stakeholders, their input, so that when a decision is reached, they can defend it, and when it's under attack, they can also come in to rescue the situation. I always want stakeholder participation in this. Right. I think these are the two stories I will touch on. Yeah.
All right. Let's get into other papers. I have related stories, but sweetie, what other stories do you have?
Well, if we have time, let me get into the Custodian newspaper. There are some interesting stories there, but I want to start from the back page. On the international front, but it's a very sad story, and maybe something we can call justice. 5 men have been sentenced to death by hanging in Nigeria's Kano State for the 2023 murder of a woman they accused of witchcraft. The convicted men attacked Dahari Abubakar, 67-year-old woman, as she was working on her farm, beating and stabbing her to death. Mrs. Abubakar's family went to the authorities and the suspects were swiftly arrested in a village 45 kilometers from Kano, the largest city in northern Nigeria. And we know that 5 of them have been sentenced to death by hanging. And that brings to the question, what are we doing about our anti-witchcraft bill? The last I knew ahead of it, Shraj was asking to engage President John Dramani Mahama over that bill because we know it wasn't signed under the previous administration. We should really look at this. Let me add some other stories and then I'll come to you, gentlemen. Tame your wild dogs, Apenyo Makin to Ayariga, the minority leader in Parliament. Alexander Apenyo Makin urging the majority leader to rein in what he described as the National Democratic Congress wild dogs in the House. Then there's a story about a Blackwell's lavish lifestyle under scrutiny. Special committee probes vetting chaos. The Special Committee of Parliament tasked to investigate the disturbances that marred the recent sittings of the Appointments Committee has officially commenced its work, pledging a transparent and impartial inquiry. And the last story that I'll get to, GSS assesses phase 2 of planting for jobs, food and jobs. The Ghana Statistical Service, in partnership with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, has launched a survey that will assess phase 2 of the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative. And good news, Dr. Kwame Asasante, this assessment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You know, public policies need to be evaluated, and if they stand the test of time, you maintain them.
Yeah.
If they are not good, you improve them. And if you think that you can sustain them, you jettison them. That is how public policies are made. So it's a regular and a continuous effort to review so as to ensure that you get the best. Remember, public policies are driven by statewide resources. So to ensure prudence, that's what you do. So I am always surprised when I see a certain policy left to lie for a very long time, only for the leaders to come one day and tell us that, oh, we are not implementing it anymore. No, that's not the best. The best thing is that continue to evaluate the policy from time to time and see whether there's a need to improve it. So if they are going to improve that program, it's a good thing. Remember, sometimes I ask myself that this country, do we want to break the neck of poverty? The only way out, perhaps the most important way, is through agriculture. That's it. Because the mainstay of this country is agriculture. We have abandoned it and we are doing something. Agric will support food production and support industry and give us better health. If we are able to produce what we consume here, we'll save ourselves a lot of hard currency we have to struggle and get. So I am always for the green revolution, where we support agric through thick and thin, and then we make the best for ourselves. Then we can be able to know that what we produce is what we consume, and then the quality is top-notch. We can assure ourselves of that, and that will create more jobs for our people, give our people hope, and then we can also export for money. Issue of witchcraft.
Yes.
It's a sad story, and you pose the relevant question, sweetie, that what is happening to our bill here? It seems it's been abandoned.
Yeah.
We need to activate this, because how do you describe somebody as a witch? I still can't wrap my hand around this, because it's problematic. It's problematic. If you can make ends meet, it's not any witch. Aristotle has always given us a guide that self-introspection is critical. The unexamined life is not worth living. So why do you attribute it to a witch? If you were doing well in life, would you also attribute it to a witch? I mean, look at the flip side of that conversation.
Yeah.
It tells us that we have our destiny in our own hand. We need to work and then make sure that we improve our lot and spare people who are old. It's not a crime for people to be old people. I have my brother, my father's younger brother alive, and I'm so happy. My uncle, he's 97 years. Yes, I am always proud of him. I go to him, and these are people, we want them at all times, right? So why are you pouncing on them and killing them and all that? It doesn't make sense. Remember, one day you will be in that category. Would you want to be called a witch and all that? I always tell people in my family that, yes, all the people All the old people regarded them as witches. They are gone. And in my family now in my home at Akupong, I am the head of the family. Who is a witch now? We are in that position. So we should shy away from all these, excuse my language, nonsense, and make sure that we improve ourselves and then will not attribute any blame to any devil or anything.
Doc, I'm curious to know, do you think this is one of those bills that expired with the previous administration? Because Parliament did pass it. It's just the president, ex-president, didn't sign it into a law. So how would we move this forward?
Or whatever is the case, if it has expired and all that, we can bring it back because it's an important bill. And failure to do justice to it, the society will be blamed forever. Yeah. We need to do it and do it very fast. Old people, we love them. We will support them. Let us maintain them. All of us will be in that category one day. And do we want to be treated this way? No, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And I think if we have more time, we can look at other
Let me go to Dr. Mohammed first. And then, Doc, let's get your thoughts on these other stories.
Well, the agriculture is very important to all of us. And like I keep mentioning, food inflation is up. What are you going to do? It's only through agriculture that we can get that sorted out. And agriculture is the only sector that feeds into the other sectors, the services sector and the industry and manufacturing sector. Without a proper agricultural systems in place, you cannot achieve all of this. So we have to work very hard to ensure that we improve on that. So if the Planting for Food and Jobs is a very good program, why do you have to scrap it? You have to maintain it and improve upon it. Let's evaluate it and let's see the loopholes and work towards it. Especially if you look at the Free Senior High School, we feed our people. Why do you have to import food? So that we can save that foreign currency, so that we can reduce the dependence on foreign food. So let's grow our own food here, feed ourselves, and become more healthier, so that we can work to develop the country. Right. So I believe that it is a better way to be able to put things in place so that we can improve our lots, especially our health.
All right.
On the issue of the witchcraft, I believe that if the law is still available and it has expired during the period, let's bring it back to Parliament. Let's Parliament look at the law, where the loopholes are. They should smoothen it, and the President should assent his signature. Human rights are very important, and we can't continue to do this to our elderly people. Just like my former lecturer said, we need to put them, we need them at all times. All of us shall be old one day, and you should not be accused of witchcraft and be beaten to death because you are an elderly person.
Yeah.
So I believe that this law should be brought back, and we should hasten to pass the law. And the President should be in a better position to sign the law so that we can protect our aged population.
Thank you. Then over to you.
Well, it's interesting that point has come up, but just as with the LGBTQ bill, these will have to go through processes one more time in Parliament, in the 9th Parliament, and hopefully we can put pen to paper on them. I'll just wrap with these stories from the Daily Searchlight newspaper. Wetlands are disappearing 3 times faster than forests. That's according to the Forestry Commission. And I wanted to tie that, Doc and Doc, to the story, not a story, but the ad by the NCCE. So, as the world celebrates World Wetlands Day, the Forestry Commission has expressed concern over the rate at which the country's wetlands are disappearing, 3 times faster than forests. Now, wetlands are critical for human survival as they provide ecosystem service, including freshwater, food, fiber, medicines, and fuel, mitigate climate variabilities, and protect man from natural disasters. Mr. Hugh Clement Adokwe Brown, the acting chief executive Forestry Commission, said, quote, wetlands filter pollutants and support livelihoods, hence the need for conservation and reservation or restoration to regain its ecological character. So we're walking the tightrope here when it comes to our environment, and if we are not careful, the ramifications could be dire. Our very own lives depend on these. Bafo Ewua granted bail, bodyguard remanded. It has to do with the Nswatreman Football Club issue, and Treme and another suspect, Ajimendria, a police inspector, were in court in connection with the murder of one Francis Frimpong, a supporter of Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And the Court B, presided over by Mr. Eric Denning, on Tuesday granted 500,000 Ghana cedi bail and 3 sureties to, of course, the former Employment and Labour Relations Minister. And British High Commissioner praises UK-trained Ghanaians who come back home to develop the country. We have just about a minute, gentlemen. I'm offering you 30 seconds each, and then we have to go. I'll start with you, Jabir.
Well, and on Nana Polo issue, it's a very dicey issue. Just to get up to go and watch football and you don't come back, it is really worrying. So I believe that the perpetrators of this particular act must be brought to book.
All right. Let me come to you, Dr. Hassan Asante.
I will look at UK government urging people who have been trained to come back home. It's a good thing. Come and support your home. Ghanaians are worried because Mr. Trump has embarked on a lot of programs in America that has ruffled the feathers of, people who are seeking greener pastures there. You can't stop him. Come and build your home so that here nobody can get you off. Home is home. Right. Home sweet home.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for those succinct thoughts. Thank you for joining the conversation this morning. And we had joining the conversation Dr. Jabir Mohammed. He is with the University of Ghana Business School. And we also had Dr. Kwame Asante, political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Both of them joined us for a conversation.
Well, I have a message coming from Raymond from our Human Resources Department. It's a birthday going out to Mr. Charles Adokwe, the Managing Director of Lone Star Gas Co. Limited. He says, may your star continue to shine and make you the brightest and make bright, I think you mean, the path of all the people you interact with. Remain healthy and strong. You're a good brother, father, and employer. From your little sister, Harriet, Najay, Jani, children, Jacqueline, Ransford, Stephanie, Emily, and staff of Lone Staff, happy birthday, sir. We wish you the very best. That ends the news review segment on the AM show, but there's so much action coming our way, so please stay.